Hello everyone and welcome to tonight's webinar. My name is Grant Olson. I'm the Education Coordinator here at Seed Savers Exchange, and tonight we'll be talking about community seed projects, specifically seed libraries and seed swaps. For those of you just getting to know our organization, our mission is to save North America's diverse but endangered garden heritage for future generations by building a network of people committed to collecting, conserving, and sharing heirloom seeds and plants while educating people about the value of genetic and cultural diversity. As I mentioned, we'll be focusing on seed libraries and seed swaps. Seed library is a central place where seeds are stored and shared with local growers. Seed libraries and regular libraries have a lot in common. They're central locations to store and distribute material, whether it be seeds or books. A seed swap then is a gathering of people who have come together to share seeds. The seed swap, there's not a central location for storage, rather there's simply a central location for distribution, and oftentimes it's an event. So folks will bring their seeds that they've saved and are willing to share to the event, put them out on tables and share them with other gardeners who are coming. The thing that connects seed libraries and seed swaps is that they are community driven and they're places where seed is exchanged. So we'll begin talking about community seed banks and seed swaps and discussing sort of how to organize them. And community seed banks and seed swaps have a lot in common. The primary difference, I suppose, is that there isn't a responsibility of storage with seed swaps, simply a responsibility to set up a venue and host an event and make that conducive to folks sharing seeds with one another. And there are a number of reasons for starting one of these community seed projects in your own area. Seed libraries and seed swaps can do incredible things. They can encourage community seed and food independence and security, educate and activate patrons, so you're teaching them a new skill and you're encouraging them to get outside and be active, can expand the diversity of people involved in seed stewardship, conserve and promote endangered or regional varieties that may be very important to your particular area, varieties that may have been important commercially but have since fallen out of favor. And seed libraries and seed swaps can also increase seed and food access and sort of encourage folks who may not have the means to purchase their own seeds, can encourage them to grow their own food. The very first step as you sort of begin your community seed project endeavor is to recruit some partners. So find other folks in your community or experts in the field of seed saving or seed libraries who can help you and potentially guide you as you're organizing your project. It would be great to have some of these folks, particularly a site manager, someone on behalf of either the library, if the seed library is actually held in a library, or the community center, wherever the site will be. It's important to have someone from the site or someone from the site where you might hold the seed swap. Seasoned gardeners, of course. This might be master gardeners in your area or experienced vegetable growers, farmers. Experienced seed savers as well are important, especially if you want to have sort of an educational component to your event. Record keepers, and if you are partnering with the library, you have some great record keepers there in that group. And community organizers, folks that can sort of get the word out about your project, and folks that may have connections with other organizations. And these folks will all need to be organized in some sort of meaningful way. You might create almost like a board. You may elect one or two people to be the primary organizers and distribute tasks to some of these other folks. And there's some great resources out there for finding folks who may be interested in assisting with the community seed project. Garden clubs, community organizations with similar goals, school garden groups, seed companies, particularly for seed donations. And if you are hosting a seed swap or a seed library that's not actually held in a library, libraries are great places to discuss circulation and storage and those sorts of concerns. The next step after you have an organized group of people to plan this community seed project is to define some goals. And it may be that the goals of your community seed project is simply to distribute seeds to as many people as possible. And you're not necessarily interested in folks returning seeds. You just want to be sharing seeds with the community as much as possible. Maybe that your goal is to encourage your community to grow more food or to maintain a regional variety. There are a number of goals that you can have, and certainly one is not necessarily loftier than the other. It'll depend a lot on your community, sort of how ready they are for your intended project and what their skill level is in seed saving, what their interests are. And so doing an assessment of the needs of your community and also an assessment of what you can offer will help you define these goals a little bit. After you've defined your goals, it's time to pick a site. And if you are planning a seed library, it's important to choose a site where seeds can be stored and also a site where seeds can be sort of browsed easily. And these two are not necessarily, there's not a lot of overlap. And you can see in this photo here the woman browsing seeds at our visitor center. All the seed packets are out, easy to see. It's easy for a number of people to sort of browse this area and pick seeds. Now your library or your particular venue for your seed library may not have this sort of facility. We see a lot of old card catalogs or dresser drawers, places that can keep the seeds sort of out of sunlight, but also places where ideally a number of folks could sort of browse at the same time. It's important to organize this in a meaningful way, either by plant type, or we often see and sort of encourage folks to organize their seeds by the sort of the ease of seed saving. And if you're hosting a seed swap, distribution is one of the number one considerations. Because you're not storing seeds for a long time, you're really just concerned with creating a place that's easy for folks to move about, setting out a lot of tables, maybe asking the individuals who are offering seed to stand at their tables and answer questions about the varieties that they have or talk about seed saving. Certainly a place that can handle a lot of traffic, set up in some cases almost like a trade show where folks can visit sort of different booths and talk to the folks who are offering seed and learn a little bit more about the plants that they'll hopefully be growing in the future. And so I mentioned earlier there's sort of two considerations for seed libraries, to a much lesser extent seed swaps. Site conditions should be great for browsing and distribution. They should be public. They should be accessible. They should have, if it's a seed library, it should be a place that is open to the public frequently enough that it's useful, but also a place where the seeds can be reasonably secure. And then there are site considerations for seed storage. Seeds need, for purposes of longevity, they need a place that is cool, dry, and dark. For seed swaps, it would be still important to sort of meet these requirements to some extent. Having a seed swap outdoors on a really humid day or a very hot day where the seeds are getting baked in the sun would not be ideal. If you have longer term seed storage as part of a community seed bank or a seed library, it's a little bit more important to keep things cool, dry, and dark. Luckily, if you are hosting your seed library at an actual library, books and seeds have very similar storage conditions. They all need places that are cool, dry, and dark, protected from insects and other pests as well. But you can see in this photo here, this is a photo of one of our seed storage rooms. It is very cool, dry, and dark, but as you can see, it's not very conducive to browsing things. There's a lot of different packets and bottles, and it would be a little bit of a hassle to ask your patrons to walk into a cooler anytime they wanted to check out seeds. So there needs to be some sort of balance. And also bringing seeds in and out of cold storage, if you want to keep your seeds in a really cool environment and just bring them out when the public needs to browse them. It's not ideal conditions for the longevity of the seeds. It's more important they have a stable environment that is somewhat cool, somewhat dry and dark, rather than having an environment that might be a little bit more ideal for long-term seed storage. As you're choosing your site, it's also important to consider some of the materials you might need. For a seed swap, you'll need a number of tables, you'll need envelopes, lots of pens, maybe some educational materials as well to distribute. If you're organizing a seed library, it's important also to have envelopes or other sort of seed storage materials, pens for people to write down variety information, some place to showcase the seeds, as I mentioned, either a dresser drawer or an old card catalog, or we have at the Decorah Public Library, we just started a seed library this year, and we have sliding index card boxes that are full of seed packets. And again, educational materials or educational displays as well would be wonderful materials to have. I touched briefly on this earlier, but it's also important to discuss how your seeds will be organized. And as I've said regarding seed swaps, I think it's great for folks who are offering seed to have a booth or have a table that they can set up all their seeds on, and they can talk about all the seeds that they have in their collection and answer questions about them. Seed swaps can also be organized by plant type, where there's a table for tomato seeds or a table for pepper seeds or area of brassicas. It can be organized that way as well, so folks aren't visiting individuals, they're just looking specifically for a variety or a particular plant type. For seed libraries then, organization is just as important, because there probably won't be someone there manning the sort of the seed library location and answering questions at all times. It's important to have a lot of that information available along with the seeds. And it may be more likely at seed libraries that folks are really just interested in getting some tomato seeds or getting some pepper seeds, and they want to find interesting varieties, but they're more interested in very specific plant types and not sort of expecting to find surprises. And so it's important to organize them by plant type or alphabetically, ways that are easy to navigate. And it may be that you also want to organize your seeds by the ease of seed saving. So you may have one sort of area for beginner seed savers where you have beans and peas and lettuce and tomatoes, and you might have another section for a little bit more knowledgeable seed savers with some peppers and eggplant, maybe cucumbers, squash, and then you have a third section with cabbage and kohlrabi and kale and corn and some other plants that require a little bit more isolation or a little bit more knowledge of plant pollination. This will depend largely on your community and sort of what their skill level is. Also, how interested you are in having folks return seed. It's very important to establish some guidelines regarding the seeds that you will offer through the seed library or seeds that you'd like folks to bring in as part of the seed swap. And this is largely dependent on the goals of your particular project. It may be that you have very strict sort of restrictions on the type of seeds that are going to be offered, and so you may only accept organic, open-pollinated, local gardener-grown seeds as part of the seed library or the seed swap. If you are interested in sort of creating any culture of seed saving, it's very important that you have only open-pollinated seeds that are offered. However, if your goal is to encourage your community to garden and you're not concerned with folks bringing seeds back, it may be that you accept any seeds whatsoever, leftover hybrid seeds that folks didn't plant and want to share with other gardeners. If you do accept multiple types of seeds, it's important to label them very clearly and discuss with your patrons the differences between open pollinated and hybrid seeds, and make sure they know they can save seeds and share seeds from open pollinated varieties, but they should not be sharing seed that they've saved from hybrid plants. Once you have these guidelines in place, it's time to find some seeds to build up your seed library or source some individuals in the community that can bring seeds for a seed swap. Many seed companies have seed donation programs for folks interested in getting a large number of seeds to sort of start up the seed library. So we, for example, have a seed donation program called Herman's Garden. I know that Baker Creek has a seed donation program. There's a number of sort of open pollinated seed companies that will offer seeds, maybe particularly to seed libraries and other community seed groups that are just getting started. If you have loftier goals of maintaining regionally important varieties or really preserving something that is rare and in need of preservation, you may be interested in contacting us, Seed Savers Exchange, to maybe get your hands on some of this plant material. And it's a project that we are starting shortly, a project to sort of identify some varieties that are in very real need of preservation and varieties that we can share with seed libraries and seed swaps so that they can be maintained in the backyards of gardeners around the country. And if you're hosting a seed swap, it's just as important to source good, quality, healthy seeds for your particular event. There's nothing worse than a seed swap where there's only one or two folks that are offering seeds and everyone else is there only to request seeds from them. It's really important to have a large volume of seeds. It may be that you request a seed donation from a seed company and you simply have seed packets there for folks to take home and maybe grow, and encourage them to save the seeds and bring them back to the next event to share them. If you are hosting a seed swap and you want to build awareness and get the word out to experienced seed savers that there's this opportunity for them to share seeds with one another, you may again contact Seed Savers Exchange and we can reach out to some of our members to see if they'd be interested in participating in a seed swap. Now with seed swaps, you'll be hosting the event. We encourage folks who are starting seed libraries to host some sort of kickoff event as well. It's an opportunity to educate your patrons about proper seed saving. You may have an expert seed saver come in to discuss how to properly save seed from tomatoes or beans or peas or a crop like that. It may be that you have music or you have some sort of seed swap event to kick off the seed library, but we think it's really important to have some sort of gathering of people to build excitement for the project. And again, great opportunity to sort of educate your patrons about the project, why it's important, and how they can participate. And I mentioned before, there's nothing worse than a seed swap where only a few people are offering and a number of people are requesting. So if you want to create a seed swap that will be memorable, seed swap where all parties, both folks offering seed and folks that are requesting seed, really feel like it was a good event, you want to have a lot of seed available. It may be that you have a speaker come in, may have some sort of other activities. And as I've mentioned before, educating patrons may be very important to your event or to your project, particularly if you want folks to be saving seed and bringing seed back to the seed swap to share again the next year, or encouraging folks to check out seed from the seed library, grow it, and then return it. It's very important that seed being returned maintains the characteristics of the parent generation so that folks who are checking out seed, folks that are getting seed from the seed swap, know exactly what they're going to be growing and they have success with it. Seeds also need to be healthy, disease and virus free, because if folks are requesting seed or checking out seed and growing it and they're having limited success, the plants aren't growing well, or they're planting what they think is going to be a big red tomato and they get tiny little orange cherry tomatoes that don't taste very good. It's very important that you're teaching your patrons proper seed saving techniques. There's a number of resources that are available for circulation or for reference. Seed to Seed by Suzanne Ashworth, Saving Seeds by Mark Rogers, and The Plant Propagator's Bible by Miranda Smith. These are all great publications to have at your library or have available for folks to browse at your seed swap or at your other community seed bank venue. Seed to Seed in particular is the most comprehensive seed saving book that's out there, very specific to fruits and vegetables. A seed saving guide for gardeners and farmers is published by the Organic Seed Alliance and is available at their website for free, seedalliance.org/publications. And this is somewhat less detailed than Seed to Seed, but most of the information that folks would need for the major garden crops is right there for them to read. And our Seed Savers Exchange webinars are a great resource for folks to watch our archived webinars at their leisure. We have topics ranging from hand-pollinating squash and corn to starting seeds to seed storage, home germination tests, the differences between open pollinated varieties, heirloom varieties, hybrid varieties. And a number of seed libraries are hosting monthly events where they might be playing one of the webinars at every meeting, so that throughout the growing season, folks are getting more and more information regarding proper seed saving. Now that you have your program organized, your goals defined, you have seeds sourced, you have your venue, now it's time to sort of distribute seeds. And the seed swap, seed distribution might simply be folks walking around with envelopes and getting little spoonfuls of seeds. It may be that folks offering seed in the seed swap have already packaged up their seeds and folks are simply grabbing seed packets and taking them home with them. For seed libraries, there might be a number of ways that you're distributing seeds. You may have a central location again where folks can browse seed packets, simply take one and leave. You might be more interested in tracking where those seeds are going, particularly if you're interested in asking patrons to check out seeds for a period of time and then return them. So some seed libraries actually catalog their seeds as they would their book collection, so that each packet has a barcode and folks go to the circulation desk, they check out a seed packet and it has a return date, 6 months or 8 months or a year, or 2 years if they're checking out biennials, where they have some sort of due date where they are expected to return seeds. Here at the Decorah Public Library, we simply ask that folks have a checkout sheet where they are writing down their name and information, so that we can, if we decide to, we can follow up with them throughout the growing season. We can ask how the seeds are growing, ask how their plants are doing. We can ask them questions to determine whether or not they are taking the steps to ensure healthy, pure seeds are returned the next year, if indeed they are going to return them. But again, the way that seeds are distributed and tracked is largely dependent on the organization. And if you're not interested in having folks bring seeds back, it may be that you don't track them at all. And if you're very concerned with maintaining a particular variety in your area, a variety that's really rare, it may be very important for you to track seeds and follow up with the patrons that are checking out the seeds and growing them. After the seeds are distributed, it may be expected that the patrons bring these seeds back, and so you need to decide how you'll handle collecting seeds. For seed swap, you're simply encouraging folks to bring seeds back again the following year for the next event, if you have an event in the spring and in the fall. When seeds are returned to the seed library, the seeds may need to be repackaged again. They may need to be sorted. They may need to be evaluated to determine if the seeds are healthy. Many seed libraries have what they call packing parties, where as seeds are returned, they may have a big event where a number of volunteers come in, they repackage all the seeds, and they put them back into the catalog for patrons to check out again in the future. And collecting seeds can be tricky. It's important to create some incentives for patrons to return seed, if indeed that's what you are asking them to do. You may require a commitment from program participants when they're checking out seed. You ask them to sign something that says, "To the best of my ability, I will save these properly and I will return them again in the fall or in 2 years," or whatever the case may be. It may be that you're offering particular varieties only to folks who have saved and returned seed, so maybe offering something very rare, something very unique to seed returners. And what we'll be doing with the Decorah Public Library is hosting an end-of-season event, a seed swap here in the community, to sort of create excitement and encourage folks to bring in their seeds and share their seeds with other gardeners in the area. And then any seeds that are not exchanged as part of that seed swap will go back into the seed library and will be available for checkout then in the spring. There will be some time between your collection and your next distribution that you'll need to maintain these seeds. If your seed library is open year-round, maintenance still may involve sort of going through the seeds that you have in your collection and taking out any seeds that are more than 5 years old or more than 3 years old, if it's an onion or a leek seed or something like that, or if the storage conditions aren't ideal. If you do have sort of non-seed seeds in your collection, things like garlic and potatoes, you'll need to turn those over every year. So if things aren't checked out within a year, they won't be any good for planting in another year. And again, with the seeds, it's important at all times that you're maintaining proper storage conditions. After your seed swap event or after maybe a year of your seed library's operation, it's important to take a step back and do some evaluation of the program. How easy was it for folks to check out seeds? Were seeds returned? Were the seeds that were returned healthy? And are the plants in the next generation uncrossed? It's important to get some feedback from the community, from your patrons, and from other stakeholders in your operation, and potentially revise your operation or potentially revise your... But this period of evaluation is the best way to ensure that you are continuing to meet the needs of your patrons, even as they change year to year. For more information regarding a seed library or a seed swap, there are a number of resources that I'd recommend. Seed Matters has several publications at www.seedmatters.org. Click on their Community Seed Toolkit, and there's a place to click after that that leads you to a number of publications they have. One of the publications is specifically on starting a seed swap and starting a community seed bank. And a lot of the information in this presentation was taken from the Seed Matters publications. In Seed Savers Exchange, we are a great resource for finding educational material, maybe sourcing some experienced seed savers in your community. And again, I'd recommend many of the other webinars that we've done, particularly to educate yourself a little bit more about proper seed saving, and also encouraging your patrons to watch these videos as well. And this is sort of more an entertaining resource than a very educational resource. But Seed Swaps in the Ozarks is a great film I watched recently about organized seed swaps, particularly in Missouri and Arkansas. And I'd like to close by discussing some ways that Seed Savers Exchange can help. We do have a seed donation program, as I mentioned, and we're sort of revising that to be a little bit more conducive to seed libraries. We've also been discussing how we can share a little bit more rare or more unique varieties with seed libraries. And this year we've started a partnership with the Decorah Public Library here in town to start a seed library and sort of go through all the steps of planning the library, hosting events, and organizing our collection, distributing and collecting it, with the hope that at the end of the year we'll have a lot of great information and a lot of great resources that we can share with other seed libraries and other seed swaps as well. Thanks very much for attending tonight's webinar, and look forward to seeing you at future presentations.